This story takes place in the fictional town of Falkenheim, where Nazi Germany is beginning to fall apart. The main character is a 10-year-old boy named Jojo, who has an imaginary friend, none other than Adolf Hitler. Despite his strong beliefs in Nazi ideology, Jojo can't even tie his own shoes. He is a staunch nationalist who fully believes in the Nazi cause and wants to help his country win the war. That's why he, along with his best friend Yorkie, joins the junior section of the Hitler Youth, called Jungvolk. They spend an entire weekend at a camp run by Captain Klenzendorf, his assistant Freddie Finkel, and Fräulein Rahm, who also oversees the League of German Girls. The children are given small-sized uniforms and special daggers. They then participate in various activities, such as grenade throwing, trench digging, map reading, and gas defense training. The boys are involved in these more active tasks, while the girls are taught to dress wounds, make beds, and learn about pregnancy. Jojo performs well in activities like describing Jewish people and burning books, but when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, he gets scared and hides, which draws the attention of the older boys. When it's time for him to learn how to kill, the older boys notice his hesitation and give him a rabbit to kill. Jojo insists he's not scared, but when he can't bring himself to kill the rabbit, he tries to set it free. However, one of the older boys grabs the rabbit and kills it himself, mocking Jojo. From that moment on, Jojo is teased and called Jojo Rabbit, which deeply hurts him, causing him to run away into the forest. Crying by the roots of a tree, his imaginary friend Hitler appears and reassures him, saying that rabbits are actually very brave creatures. They go into the forest every day to find carrots, using clever tricks to survive and avoid being caught. Encouraged by this, Jojo gathers his courage and heads back to the camp, where Captain Klenzendorf is teaching the children how to throw grenades. As Jojo walks by, he grabs a grenade from Klenzendorf and runs towards the forest. But he throws the grenade so poorly that it bounces off a tree and lands at his feet, exploding right next to him. Jojo loses consciousness, but through blurred memories, he recalls people rushing him to the hospital and his mother, Rosie Betzler, coming to visit him. A few days later, Jojo wakes up in his room, and as he tries to get out of bed, he immediately notices a limp in his leg. When he looks in the mirror, he sees the scars on his face. His mother hugs him and reminds him that even though his father is missing and his sister Inga is dead, she will always be there for him. Rosie dresses Jojo in his uniform again and takes him back to the Jungvolk headquarters. There, they find Captain Klenzendorf awkwardly feeding food to Finkel. Klenzendorf had already been demoted for his carelessness, but despite that, Rosie kicks him in the back and slaps him with her glove, demanding that he give Jojo some work. She insists that even if Jojo can't be on the field, he should still feel included. Klenzendorf promises to find Jojo something to do, and Jojo is tasked with putting up propaganda posters around town and handing out recruitment flyers, work he does with great enthusiasm. One day, while out working, Jojo spots his mother staring at a group of people hanging from the gallows in the town square. When Jojo asks why those people were executed, Rosie simply replies, "They did what they could." Later, when Jojo returns home, his mother isn't there, and he becomes anxious when he hears strange noises coming from his sister's room. Curious, Jojo goes into the room and finds a strange mark on the floor that leads to the wall. He pokes the mark with his knife and manages to open a hidden section of the wall. Behind it is enough space for someone to crawl into, and there are scattered clothes inside. To Jojo's shock, a young girl named Elsa Kor emerges. Startled by Jojo's screaming in fear, she chases him out of the room. Just as Jojo is about to reach the front door, Elsa catches him and pins him against the wall. She tells him that she has his dagger and admits that she is Jewish, but explains that Rosie had been hiding her in their home. Elsa warns Jojo that if he tells anyone about her, she'll say that Jojo and his mother were helping her, which would get them all killed. Elsa then retreats to her hiding spot, still holding Jojo's knife. Terrified, Jojo runs back to his room and discusses his options with his imaginary friend, Hitler. Deciding he needs to negotiate to protect himself, Jojo grabs a kitchen knife and a pot for defense, then returns to his sister's room and tells Elsa she needs to find somewhere else to hide. But he's quickly startled again when Elsa sneaks up behind him, takes the kitchen knife, and forces him out of the room. Once again, Jojo consults with his imaginary Hitler, and they conclude that Jojo should make Elsa feel safe so she'll lower her guard. That evening, when Rosie returns home, Jojo mentions that he heard strange noises from upstairs, but Rosie brushes it off, saying it was probably just rats. After putting Jojo to bed, Rosie secretly visits Elsa and warns her to be cautious. Rosie tells her that if anything happens, she won't be able to protect her over her son. She also reminds Elsa that as long as even one person is alive out there, they are still fighting. The next day, Jojo goes to a swimming pool, which might help improve his injured leg. At the swimming pool, Jojo notices Captain Klenzendorf and Finkel sitting close to each other, looking anxious, likely afraid of Rosie. Once his mother leaves, Jojo approaches them and asks Klenzendorf what he should do if he finds a Jew. Klenzendorf replies that he should call the Gestapo, the Nazi secret police, who will kill the Jew and anyone helping them. Jojo also wonders how to identify a Jew, to which Klenzendorf admits that he has no idea and jokes that someone should write a book about it. After returning home, Jojo tries to talk to Elsa again. He tells her that neither of them can do anything to each other if they want to avoid trouble, but says that he'll let her stay if she gives him information about Jews so he can write a revealing book. Elsa agrees, sarcastically telling him that Jews are just like other people, but since Jojo won't believe that, she claims that Jews are greedy, allergic to food, and other absurdities. Jojo quickly realizes Elsa is trying to trick him into bringing her more food. When he tries to explain how the Aryan race is superior and Jews are weak, Elsa grabs him, covers his mouth, and firmly tells him that Jews are not weak. She shakes him and then returns to her hiding place. That evening, Rosie comes home and burns some papers, then pours herself a drink and plays music. She is in a joyful mood because the Allies have taken over Italy and France is next. Jojo argues with her about why she's against their country, but Rosie stops the conversation and tells him to eat. However, she doesn't eat herself, saying she's not hungry. Jojo grows suspicious, thinking she's saving the food for Elsa, so he decides to eat all the leftovers himself. Jojo misses his father and imagines that if his dad were there, he would understand him. To cheer him up, Rosie puts on her husband's jacket, smudges ash on her face to resemble a beard, and pretends to be Jojo's father. In a stern voice, she tells Jojo to take care of his mother, as she's doing her best. She then turns up the music and forces Jojo to dance with her. The next day, Jojo gives Elsa a pencil and paper, asking her to draw where Jews live and where Jewish women lay eggs. Elsa starts drawing, but refuses to answer questions about her family. However, she tells Jojo about her fiancé, Nathan, who is fighting in the resistance. The drawing Elsa gives Jojo is simply a picture of her own head, as she jokingly says that's where the Jews live. This gives Jojo an idea. He writes a fake letter, pretending to be Nathan, and reads it aloud to Elsa, saying Nathan is breaking up with her. Elsa doesn't believe it at first, but hearing such cruel words in Nathan's name deeply hurts her, leaving her heartbroken. Elsa quickly runs back to her hiding spot, and seeing her so sad and human, Jojo feels guilty about what he did. To make up for it, he writes a new letter, again pretending to be Nathan, saying the previous one wasn't true and that Nathan still loves her. Elsa thanks him and asks him to bring more letters in the future. They then play a game where they name famous people from their respective sides. Elsa wins when she mentions Jesus. Some time later, Jojo and Rosie go for a walk by the river, and Rosie tells him how different the area used to be. It was always full of people, dancing, and enjoying romance, which Jojo dislikes. Rosie also says that children shouldn't be talking about politics. They should be playing, climbing trees, and everyone should be dancing as a symbol of freedom. Jojo dismisses this and rides off on his bike while Rosie follows him. As they reach the road, they see soldiers returning home in a truck, looking sad and defeated. Jojo comes home in a bad mood, so Elsa tries to cheer him up with her silly, made-up stories. Slowly, Jojo starts enjoying her company more, though later, his imaginary Hitler scolds him for letting his German mind be influenced by someone else. That night, Rosie spends some time with Elsa and tells her how glad she is to have her around, seeing her grow into a young woman, something she couldn't experience with her own daughter. The next day, Jojo goes to the Jungvolk headquarters, where he sees Klenzendorf and Finkel having an intense, almost nose-to-nose conversation. When Jojo tells him he's writing a revealing book on Jews, they laugh at him and don't take him seriously. Klenzendorf decides to show Jojo some designs he and Finkel made, which are flashy and eye-catching. Then, he gives Jojo a new task, collecting scrap metal for the war effort. As Jojo walks the streets in his odd robot-like outfit, he notices his mother distributing anti-Nazi leaflets. He also runs into his friend Yorkie, who has now been accepted as a soldier. When Jojo tells him he's caught a Jew, Yorkie casually mentions that he saw one in the woods once and doesn't understand what the big deal is, which leaves Jojo with a lot to think about. When Jojo gets home, he goes to see Elsa and gives her some colored pencils he had found here and there. He also reminds her that friendship between a Nazi and a Jew is illegal. Elsa points out that he's not really a Nazi because he hasn't harmed her. He's just a lonely boy trying to find his place in the world. They agree to disagree on the matter. When Elsa realizes how dirty she has become, Jojo allows her to come out of hiding and take a bath. She also wears some of his sister's clothes. They are just about to have dinner together when suddenly there's a knock on the door. Elsa quickly returns to her hiding place, and Jojo opens the door to find several Gestapo officers led by Hermann Diertz. Following them are Captain Klenzendorf and Finkel, who claim they brought some pamphlets for Jojo, but it feels like an excuse. The Gestapo immediately begins searching the house. Diertz questions Jojo about where his mother spends all day and why he doesn't have his knife in his uniform. At that moment, Elsa, dressed in Inga's clothes, comes out and introduces herself as Inga. She explains that she took the knife because her brother was bothering her. The Gestapo proceeds to search her room. Suspicious. Diertz asks for her papers. Elsa hands over Inga's ID to Klenzendorf, who asks her about her birth date. Elsa gives the correct answer, and Klenzendorf lets her go. However, Diertz notices Jojo's book, where he has drawn grotesque pictures of Jews. The Gestapo laughs at his expose, but Klenzendorf doesn't seem amused. When they reach the part where Jojo wrote about Nathan's supposed death, Elsa feels deeply hurt and betrayed. Finding nothing suspicious, the Gestapo leaves. As Klenzendorf departs, he hands back Elsa's ID and returns Jojo's knife. Later, Elsa realizes she gave the wrong birth date, meaning Klenzendorf was helping them. Jojo mentions that no one knows Inga is dead, so Elsa could take her place and live with them as usual. However, Elsa is upset by the content of Jojo's book and tells him they cannot be friends. Jojo's imaginary Hitler then yells at him for trying to befriend Elsa and understand her, urging him to get his priorities straight. When Jojo goes outside to get some food, he is horrified to find his mother, Rosie, hanged in the public square. Completely devastated, Jojo clings to her legs, crying and trying unsuccessfully to tie her shoes. After staring at her body for hours, he returns home, takes a knife, and blames Elsa for Rosie's death. He is about to kill her, but Elsa grabs his hand, and he only manages to scratch her. Jojo breaks down again, and this time Elsa comforts him. She explains that she had always known Rosie was part of the resistance, although she didn't have full details. She also reveals that Jojo's father is fighting for the resistance too, but Rosie had told Jojo otherwise to keep him from worrying. Elsa also admits that her parents were taken to a concentration camp, so now they have no one but each other. Jojo begins scavenging for food in trash bins every day, watching as the city becomes more destroyed with each passing day. He and Elsa settle into a routine, eating together and enjoying the fake letters from Nathan that Jojo writes. One afternoon, as the Allied forces begin their attack, chaos erupts in the city. Amid this turmoil, Hitler commits suicide. Jojo runs into Yorkie, who is carrying weapons since the army is now sending children into battle. Jojo tells him that the Jewish person he caught has now become his girlfriend, and he's worried because it's illegal. But Yorkie casually mentions that he's met Russians and Japanese people, who are worse than the Jews. Soon after, Rum finds them, and after handing Yorkie a gun and sending him off, she gives Jojo a uniform jacket, so he won't accidentally be shot by his own side. At the same moment, a bomb explodes, and Jojo is disoriented. He sees everyone fighting, including children, the elderly, and even Klenzendorf and Finkel, who are fighting in their bright, flashy uniforms. Terrified, Jojo hides in an abandoned building until everything calms down. When he emerges, Jojo sees that the Americans have taken down the Nazi flags and replaced them with their own, celebrating their victory. Soviet soldiers are rounding up all the Nazis, including Diertz and the Gestapo. Seeing Jojo in his uniform jacket, they capture him too. Among the prisoners, Jojo spots Klenzendorf, who tells him he's a good kid and that he should take care of his sister. Then Klenzendorf spits on him, calling him a Jew, so that the soldiers will let Jojo go. Helplessly, Jojo watches as Klenzendorf is taken away to be executed by a firing squad. On his way home, Jojo runs into Yorkie again, who says he's going to cuddle with his mom. When Yorkie mentions that Jojo's girlfriend is now free, Jojo becomes sad, realizing that Elsa might leave him. He quickly rushes home. Jojo decides to lie to Elsa, telling her that Germany has won the war so she won't leave. However, when he flips through his book and sees pictures of his mother and a rabbit trapped in a cage, he pretends to write another letter from Nathan and reads it aloud. In this fake letter, Nathan says he has a plan to get her out of the city. Finally, Elsa confesses that Nathan actually died of tuberculosis last year, but she found comfort in Jojo's letters. Jojo admits that he loves her romantically, but knows she only loves him as a brother, which she agrees with. Despite this, Jojo still wants to help her escape. Imaginary Hitler is disappointed by this and tries to convince Jojo to change his mind, but Jojo finally confronts him and throws him out of the window. Elsa hesitates about going outside, but Jojo encourages her, and eventually, she succeeds in crossing the door. At the same moment, a car with an American flag passes by, leading Elsa to slap Jojo for lying to her. Thinking about their next steps, they decide to celebrate their freedom by dancing.